Hey everybody, welcome back to Subscription Box Basics. Julie Ball here. Gonna do a quick intro for my guest today, and then I'm gonna throw it over to the recording. I am absolutely thrilled to have Amy Porterfield on today's podcast. She's coming out with a new book called 2 Weeks Notice. And it's all about leaving your corporate career, your 9 to 5, so to speak, and to create a life of your dreams. Now, Amy is an ex-corporate girl turned online marketing expert. You may have heard of her through the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast. I was actually on the podcast back in October, and it was so much fun chatting with her. And so I invited her to be on the Subscription Box Basics podcast too, because I really think you're going to love this book and her business advice. So if you spend the next half hour or so with us, I really think you are going to resonate with what Amy is saying about starting a business and the mindset surrounding it, giving some really, really tactical advice. So I'm going to throw it over to the recording right now, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, you guys, I'm so excited for my guest today. It's the one and only Amy Porterfield. Welcome to Subscription Box Basics, Amy.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, and we just chatted a couple of months ago on your podcast. Guys, if you haven't listened to it, it is episode 508. It was from October 2022. After you listen to this episode, go back over there and listen to ours. It's really, really fun. We dive into some topics that were new to a lot of people. But today, our topic is your new book, Amy. I've got it in my hands. 2 Weeks Notice. It comes out February 21st, 2023. Tell us about this book. I'm so excited.
Thanks so much for having me on, because I love the fact that I get to talk to amazing audiences like yours about this topic of leaving behind your 9 to 5 job, finding the courage to do so, and starting your own online business. Now, some people listening here have already left their 9 to 5 job, but this idea of building a really strong foundation in your online business is a big topic in this book, like step by step by step, how to do it. And the reason I wrote this book is because 14 years ago, I left my last corporate job. I worked with peak performance coach Tony Robbins, and I was the director of content development. And I got to travel the world with Tony, work on the content that he does on stage at events like Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny. If you know Tony, you know those events. Mm-hmm. And it was an amazing job. But I also craved freedom. I got to a point that I didn't want to be on someone else's time or someone else's dime. I wanted to work when I wanted, where I wanted, how I wanted to work. And I really, really wanted to call the shots. And this is something that started to bubble up in me. And over about a year's time, I thought, I've got to do this. But when I went out on my own, I had no idea how to build a business. Like, I was clueless, and I wasn't really sure I was cut out for it. So every time something didn't work, which always happens in the first few years,
it does.
Right? I would tell myself, I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur, or what am I thinking being a business owner? So I really stumbled through it. So 14 years in now, built a multi-million-dollar business. I thought, I'm going to write the book that I wish I had when I was first starting out, so that more and more people, especially women, because I want to help more women get into this space, I want to help them with a guidebook of here's exactly how to do it. So that's why I wrote the book.
I love that, because it can be really overwhelming. And so there's going to be a lot of people listening that may have already done that, but there's going to be a lot of people listening to our podcast episode thinking like, oh, this episode was made for me. I have that gut feeling. I am kind of checked out at work. How do you know that your corporate career wasn't cutting it for you? Like, how did you feel ready?
So I don't think you ever feel ready. Genuinely, it's a unicorn of a person that the day they leave their 9 to 5 job and they drive away, they're like, I'm 100% ready. This is all going to work out. I'm very confident. I don't think that is normal for most of us. I was terrified.
Me too.
I was like, right? Like, where's the money coming from? What if this doesn't work out? What is everyone going to think? I'm going to look like a failure. Like, all these thoughts came up. However, I was very clear on my why. And I think this is for everybody listening. If you haven't yet left behind what's no longer serving you, you have to ask yourself, what do you want and why do you want it? For me, it was very selfish. I wanted my own freedom. I wanted to work when I wanted, where I wanted, how I wanted. I did not want anybody telling me what to do. And so I had to go through this process of unbossing myself. So this is a big focus in the book, how to unboss yourself. I've had a boss since I was born. My dad was a very strict dad. He called the shots, his way or the highway. He was my boss from day one. And then I went into the work world where I had all these bosses. And I was good at having a boss. You tell me what to do and I could do it, and I would do it better than everyone else. Like, that was my personality. However, when I decided I really want some more freedom, I had to learn how to trust that I could lead myself instead of relying on everybody else to lead me. And so first I got clear on what I wanted. I wanted freedom. I wanted to call the shots. I didn't want to work for somebody else or build someone else's dream. And then second, I had to believe that I was capable of leading myself. That was probably the hardest part, and that took some time to get there.
That's interesting. I like your unbossing technique. One of the things that I was challenged with, because I did leave a 9 to 5 as well. I did about 10 years in corporate America. And we talked a little bit about it on our podcast episode on online marketing made easy. But essentially, I had kind of checked out. I had worn chucks to work that day, and my boss did not think it was appropriate. But I felt like I needed my out, like a big reason to leave. Like, you don't have to, like, in hindsight, you don't have to have that big reason. Your reason was really clear. My reason became very clear to me when I got pregnant with my daughter. And I was like, there's no way I want this lifestyle when I'm trying to be a mom, a brand new mom.
I hear that one a lot. A lot of women do not go back to their 9 to 5 job because they look at this little baby and think, I can't do this. I can't work my life away, miss all the things that are going to happen over the next few years because I'm at a job where I have literally no ability to call my own shots or schedule or anything like that. Yeah. So a baby definitely can really shake it up. But you make a great point. For those listening, you might already be there and that's okay. But some of you aren't at a place that you're miserable and you hate it and you're resentful. You will get there though. If you have a knowing in you that I need and want to do something different, there has to be something more. Don't wait till it's miserable to leave. Leave when you're on a high. Leave when you have like you feel good, you feel alive, and you just want something different. In the book, I tell this story about this woman who thought about leaving forever. She just wanted to do her own thing. She wasn't sure exactly how she was going to make it work, but she had this desire to do her own thing. But she was too scared. The regular paycheck was too much of a security that she valued, and so she couldn't let it go. And so she never made a move. And then she was laid off. And now the decision was not hers anymore. It was somebody else decided, I'm going to take that paycheck away from you. And she had to scramble and figure something out. Now she's frantic and freaking out. It doesn't have to be that way if you catch it early enough.
I'm so glad you told that story. I was literally on a coaching feedback call yesterday with one of my subscription box bootcamp students. This was just getting feedback on the program that I run. And she was in that same situation. She was in a job. She got laid off during the pandemic because she did event planning. Can't do that during the pandemic. No. And so she started her subscription box, which is called the Eczema Sample Box. And she sends out samples of skincare, like lotions and sunscreens and stuff like that. And now she's running that as her business. I think that sometimes we have that choice. Sometimes we're forced into a choice. Yeah. So you do what's right for you. So I try to think back of when I was in that moment, and it feels scary. It feels like a risk. When I left my job, my corporate career, I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, but we needed to be a double income family. So I didn't know exactly what to do. I did start a side hustle, started learning some new skill sets, but that was what I did to work through my exit strategy. What are some of the first steps that you recommend for creating an exit strategy?
Oh, I love this. Okay. So first of all, when you think about an exit strategy, it's essentially your ramp up to officially giving that 2 weeks notice and going out on your own. And so I love the idea of a side hustle. So let's talk about that really quickly. Okay. Starting a side hustle, even though it might not be your end all be all, like my side hustle was I took a few clients and I was doing their social media or coaching them on some social media strategies. I had done social media at my job at Robbins. So I started just saying, this is how I'll start. I knew that is not the type of business I want to create ultimately, but I needed to get my foot in the door. And what a side hustle does is that you can bring in a little money, don't expect a windfall, but you're going to bring in a little money and think, okay, wait a second, I can do this. Most of us have never put ourselves out there like that. So it's a big step to go on social media and say, I'm taking a few clients to do social media or whatever it might be. And so those little steps start building up some self-confidence and bringing in a little money. So when I eventually quit, I had a few clients. It wasn't going to cover my salary, so I knew I'd be making less in the beginning, a risk I was willing to take because I wanted something so bad, which is to be my own boss. But that side hustle does give you a little ramp up to get you ready. But don't let that side hustle make you believe that, oh, maybe I'll just do both. No, that's playing small. I want you to go all in, but I love baby steps. So that's one thing. The other thing is you've got to choose your exit date. It's like one of the biggest steps in this ramp up. You have to say, this is the date I'm going to quit. Now, it might be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. I'd rather you not choose anything over 1 year. Because how long are you willing to wait in order for your dream life to start? I think a year is probably the longest you should wait. Life is way too short. But let's say it's going to be 6 months. Okay. You write that date on a Post-it note. You put it on a mirror where you see it every single day. And the question you ask is, what will I do today to get me closer to be ready for that date? Because that date's happening. The way you develop more self-confidence in your ability to be an entrepreneur is you keep promises to yourself. And this is your first big promise. Come hell or high water, I am quitting on that date. So whatever I got to do, I've got 6 months to do it. Let's go. And another thing, when you're getting to that ramp up or you're ramping up to leave, know that you're likely not going to have a huge nest egg. We all want one. That was my plan. I might have had a month of mortgage in my account when I left. And number two, you don't need a big business plan. I don't even know what a business plan actually looks like. Did you have a full-on business plan when you left your 9-to-5 job?
Oh, I didn't. No, like I said, we didn't know if it was going to last 30 days, 3 months, 6 months. Like we were just playing it by ear, but we were willing to do whatever it took.
Yes, that's what it is. Willing to do whatever it took to make this happen. And so that's part of this runway to quit your job, is to realize I'm not going to have probably a big nest egg. I'm not going to have a big business plan. Sure, you're going to start thinking about what could this business look like? Who do I want to serve? What might I offer? Like we're going to talk about all of that throughout the book, but that's part of your ramp up. But don't think it needs to be super elaborate. And there's lots of mindset shifts that we're going to make from the day you decide to quit to the day you actually do. And one of them is to act as an entrepreneur and business owner while you're still in your 9-to-5 job. This one's really important, where how would a business owner act? How would they show up? Like in your job, you're serving people. You might not own that business, but you're serving people, you're adding value, you're doing things that you're likely going to do in your own business as well. Do them really well to the bitter end of that 9-to-5 job. Because if you start showing up as an owner, as an entrepreneur, as someone who makes decisions, takes risks, while you're still in that 9-to-5 job, you're going to hit the ground running as an entrepreneur. So let's act as if now, so you can get some practice on your way out.
Ooh, I like that. And if you don't know how to act that way right now, this book and your podcast are great places to start, because I know that's where I started. Like I found your podcast years ago when I was just a baby entrepreneur, like in my early stages, and hearing other people do it before me, hearing their success stories, but also hearing their failures, which I know you love to share as well. The hard stuff. I think that is what really gave me confidence and helped me keep moving forward when things were tough.
Absolutely. I love to hear the stories of people crashing and burning, because quite honestly, all I think is, thank God I'm not alone. Or if that happens to me, I'm not abnormal or anything like that. And you just said something that reminded me of a story. So when you're acting as if, when you're looking at that exit date saying, what could I do today to get me closer to that date? I did that. Like everything I teach in this book, I did it. And one of the things I did is I found this woman online that was crushing it in the same industry I wanted to be in. She was creating digital courses, teaching marketing. I wanted the business she had built. And so I reached out to her online and I said, can I pay you for an hour of your time to talk about how you built your business? Now, this is not something she offered on her website. She didn't do this kind of coaching. It was different, but I was willing to pay money. And she said yes. So I was still at my job and I worked in a little office all by myself, but it had really thin walls. And I was terrified someone was going to hear me because I wasn't ready to leave. So I wasn't telling anyone just yet. I crawled underneath my desk, called her on the phone, whispered the whole time. I'm sure she thought, why is this girl whispering? But I wanted to hear about it so bad. And the only time we could do it was at my lunch hour. So I took it. And those are things that you really get uncomfortable. The more you can get uncomfortable, let's say the last 6 months of your 9 to 5 job, the better, because that means you're doing things to move you closer to where you want to get.
Yeah. And action creates confidence.
Amen. Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about mindset, because I know that's something I'm challenged with. I know a lot of my listeners are challenged with, and specifically about money. And so look, with a subscription box business, there's that added benefit of the recurring revenue. I know you and I talked about that on your podcast, but there's also recurring costs like products and packaging and postage. So do you have any strategies for dealing with money anxiety? I know you talk about it in the book a little.
Yes. So money anxiety is very real. Like the idea that you are going to quit your 9 to 5 job and no longer get a guaranteed every other week paycheck is a very big deal. So we do not take that lightly around here. At the same time, I think we need to get realistic. And before you leave your job, I want you to ask yourself, how much money do I need to make to survive? And I don't mean like barely scraping by, but living your life. You're not living in luxury yet. You're going to make some sacrifices. Maybe there's no vacations that first year of being out on your own or whatever it might be. But realistically, how much money do you need to make? And a lot of times it's not even as much as you're making in your 9 to 5 job. You could say, I'm not quitting till I can guarantee I'm making the salary I'm making now. Why would you ever do that to yourself? The number one skill or ability of an entrepreneur, a business owner, is taking risks.
Yes.
You've got to get comfortable with taking risk. And one risk is I'm willing to make less money than I made in my 9 to 5 job for the first year, maybe second year, so that I could exponentially blow that out of the water come year 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be. And so I think this is so important. Like my first year, I actually told myself I will make less than I made at my Tony Robbins job. I barely scraped by. I made just as much as I made that first year, but I was willing to make less, which I think is important. The second year, I actually made less money than the first year. You imagine what was going through my head. I'm not cut out to do this. I'm a failure. I'm making less money than I made my first year in business. But I was taking risks. I started to take less clients and start creating courses, but I didn't know how to launch courses. So I was fumbling every which way, but I was moving toward it. Mm-hmm. By year 3, I was starting to make some good money. I'm guessing like $300,000 by then. By year 4, I had almost hit $1 million. If I wasn't willing to take a step back to take many steps forward, I would never make it. So this idea of money anxiety, it's very real, but let's be willing to take some risks. Let's be willing to go backwards so we can propel forward and just get really clear on what you need to make. And if you've got a 6-month runway, let's start saving money. Let's start cutting back. So we've got a little nest egg, not a big one, a little nest egg to get us through.
I remember when I left my job, we cut all of the excess things that were kind of the nice to haves just to see what I call it our need number. And my husband and I just had this conversation like 2 days ago, like what's our new need number? Because it changes in different seasons. And so we figured out what our need number is. And then we backed into what do we need to bring in monthly to make that? And then to bring it to the subscription box level, you figure out how many boxes based off of profit, how many boxes you need to sell to hit that number. And when I first launched in September 2016, I was in the red for 4 months. The 4th month is when I actually broke even. But then I went, so it felt like I was going backwards, right?
Yeah.
Month 9, I replaced my income, my salary from my corporate salary. And it was just this mindset shift when I started being in the green, so to speak, when I was making money, even if it was a little bit in month 4, 5, whatever, it started giving me that confidence and made me feel like I could show up. I could feel more confident about sharing about my business. I think that's one thing that's a little bit scary. My parents didn't understand what I did. How
Yeah.
could I explain this to other
Oh,
people? You
yes.
know
I
that
get
feeling?
that. Oh, absolutely. And you just made me think of something. So, yes, if you ask my dad what I do, I'd be like embarrassed to hear how he explains this. So, even to this day, he doesn't get it, but he supports me all the same. But that's important what you just said. Be careful who you tell your dreams to, especially when you're still in your 9 to 5 job. When you have this idea that I want to start my own business, I want to start a subscription box. When you have this idea and you start telling random people, I can guarantee you they will tell you all the reasons why this is a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
This will not work. And so their lens is, I'm afraid to do it. I would never leave my 9 to 5 job. That's risky. So everything they say is coming from a lens of no, 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 no risk. And so Sarah Blakely, this is one of my most favorite stories. She told this story that when she started her business Spanx and she was cutting off the feet of her nylons and starting this new company, she said, I hardly told anybody because I knew if I told somebody what I wanted to do and they told me why it was a bad idea, I was weak enough at that time to believe them. I didn't have the confidence yet. I would have believed everything they told me. So I didn't tell anyone. And so when I was decided to leave my 9 to 5 job, I told 3 people: my husband, Hobie, who's my biggest cheerleader from day one, my mom, who believes I could land on the moon, and my best friend, who would just cheer me on no matter what. I knew they would all cheer me on. I didn't tell anyone who I thought would be doubtful. And I think that's important. Not everyone deserves or gets the respect to hear your dreams because they can't hold them for you. So be careful who you talk to in the early days.
Oh, that's such good advice. I think you'll find a shifting point when you're ready to go into like that pre-launch runway.
Yeah.
Then you have to shout it out. But
Yes.
when you're in those moments of figuring it out, still trying to figure out what success looks like to you, how to put together those big goals, those big dreams, because that's scary.
Yeah.
I agree. I like that, keeping it close to you. So
Yeah.
another mindset issue that I think a lot of my listeners deal with is they try to be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
And so I've heard this story before. Will you please tell them your story about the conversation you had with your friend Jasmine Starr?
Yes. Okay. So I'm a people pleaser, and it's something that I work hard on not to be, but at my core, I am. And I want everybody online to love me.
Yeah.
Like I just really do. And
Same.
so, okay, so you could relate.
Mhm.
And so I would create content and put it out there and typically not be very polarizing or like put my strong opinion out there. I would kind of water it down a little just to not ruffle any feathers. And then one day I did put something out there that was a little bit controversial. And this guy came at me with all the reasons why this was a bad idea. It was about launching. It wasn't even about anything like socially unacceptable. It was about marketing. But he didn't like what I had to say. And he told me all the reasons why that didn't work. And then other people started chiming in and I freaked out. And so I called up my friend Jasmine and I said, people are like attacking me online. There's this guy that's saying this and this girl that's saying this. It was probably like 3 people, but it felt like a million. And all she said was, you ain't for everyone, boo. And like right when she said it, it's like, what? You ain't for everyone, boo. Like, let it go. Not everyone's going to love you. And if everyone loves you, you likely are not actually putting anything out there that's unique or interesting or special because it's just all watered down. And in that moment, I realized, oh, she is 100% right. And even if I put something amazing out there, I cannot please everyone. And that is exhausting. So we need to remember that. And it kind of goes a little further with niching down. Like, who do you serve? I have a student who she used to just serve everybody that is a teacher. And then she decided, I serve 2nd grade teachers in math. Boom. That's when they found her. Because all the teachers, she was just swimming in a sea of online messiness. But 2nd grade math teachers, now she's cut through the noise and found her audience. So I'm all about just talking to the one specific person that you know you can serve. And you're not for everyone.
I agree 100%. First of all, it took me a while to accept that. Like when I heard it for that type of that I'm not for everyone, it was from one of my besties. And she said it about herself. So her name's Brandy. She runs the Happy Glamper Box. I've known her for over a decade. We kind of grew up, did our 20s together. And she said to me one day, I know I'm not for everyone, and I'll put it on a shirt. And I was like, she had confidence in that statement. She knew she wasn't for everyone. Yeah. And I was like, I need to adopt that. So hearing it from you guys too, you and Jasmine, I'm like, man, this really makes so much sense. And when I talk to my students about niching down their subscription box, I tell them someone needs to get to your website and think this box was made exactly for me.
Yes. That's not going to happen if that's a watered down message or a watered down box. They're not going to be like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. Mm-hmm. Those are the people who buy, not the people who are like, oh, this is cute. That's nice. They're not buying.
Yeah.
You have to get that passion in them, and you got to be more specific to get there.
I'm having so much fun with this, and I want to kind of bring this back around to the book. There's so much amazing business advice in here, but if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of business advice, what would it be and why?
Okay. So I'm going to move away from the mindset for a moment. I could give you like a million different mindset shifts that I think are necessary to make as an entrepreneur, but we've talked about some of those and there's tons in the book. But if we're going to get really tactical, one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was first starting my business is I did not focus on growing my email list. And it's a big part of the book because an email list will convert 4 times better than any social media post. And when you grow your business on social media, which is what most first-time entrepreneurs will do, they'll use Instagram, TikTok, Facebook to get a following. And they'll say, look, I've got this following. I'm not making a lot of money yet, but I've got thousands of followers. And I'll tell them, you have just built your business on rented land. You do not own Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Speaking of Twitter, Elon buys Twitter and boom, how people use it is changing dramatically. Imagine if you put all your eggs in one basket and that's how you were growing your business, you're in trouble. Your email list is something you own. And let me tell you a quick story. So last year, do you remember when Facebook and Instagram went down? When it went black? And it was like, is anyone out there? Is the world still turning? Because it was so bizarre. We weren't talking to each other through social. That morning, I had sent an email out about one of my products that I have that I've had for years, reminding those on my list who haven't bought it yet, I've got this product. Here's what it's about. Go check it out. So we made $6,000 within hours. By the end of the day, $18,000 with one email to a small segment of my list when social media was black. It was not up and running. And that was such a reminder to me that I don't need social media to grow my business. I own an email list. And as long as I create great value through that list, nurture my audience, I will always have a way to make money. Always. I could literally make money today by sending an email. That is powerful. That gives you confidence in your business. So the mistake most people make is they'll spend years doing other things and not focusing on their list. I absolutely did that for 2 years and it was hard. Business was hard. The moment I said, let's just stop all of this, let's focus on that email list, that's when business became more profitable and easier.
I can confirm that that happens in the subscription box world too. When it comes to my students, they're finding that their email list converts better than anything else right now, better than ads right now, better than showing up on social. I tell them, still show up on social, but take that weight off your shoulders that you don't have to post 3 times every day. Like, take that time that you would have maybe had to prepare yourself, give yourself a pep talk and then actually show up. Take that time instead and work on a lead magnet or a giveaway and grow that email list. And that is one of the things I see most new subscription box business owners overlook as well. And so I'm glad that you talk about it a lot in the book. And I've been through your List Builders Society. I've been hearing you talk about email lists for years. And it's just kind of a normal part of what we do now. It doesn't feel so daunting anymore.
Absolutely. I love that you said that because I was thinking for a subscription box, I would want to have a really quality, notice I didn't say quantity, a really quality email list. I
Mhm.
could see that making a huge difference and keeping people engaged every single month so that they stay on that list.
Yeah. And there's so much to talk about when it
Yeah.
comes to subscription box businesses. If you sell a box every single month and you curate a new box, think about like one topic you can do each week. One can be a sneak peek. One could be, behind the scenes of shipping week.
Yeah.
One could be your box is on the way. And one could be a product feature. It's just so easy when you have a product. You don't even have to show your face. You can
Yes.
take video, take pictures, drop them in that email. We used to use Loom a lot, where I would
Yeah.
just do a quick video and we would send that out to nurture our list. And half the time I wasn't even in the video. It was just like my hands unboxing something, but we would send those via email. And this is off the cuff, but do you have a preference or do you think text versus video versus adding gifts? Like what's working right now?
I love this question because I actually think it's all working. And I think that mixing it up is a great idea.
Mm.
But I love your Loom idea because we've done Bomb Bomb. So it's BOMB, BOMB.
Mhm.
And Bomb Bomb is a way to add a video to an email. And when they open the email, they don't hear anything, but they see me talking like there's something in that video and they click it and it will start playing for them. And so I love video in email. I think it goes a long way. But most of the time, my email is text only. I might have a GIF in there just for fun, but it doesn't have a big banner. It's not a nice, beautiful newsletter. I want it to look like it's coming from a friend. And so I keep my emails very simple. And then once in a while, we'll add that video or something different. I think the best thing you could do as a business owner, and this is something you can do while you're still in your 9 to 5 job, is become a student of copywriting. So learning how to write an email that engages people, learning how to write a subject line that gets people to open up that email, learning how to talk to your audience. It's a skill that every business owner should learn, even though down the road, I have a copywriter on my team, but I definitely have written all my copy from the get-go before I had that copywriter. So there's books on it. There's digital courses. Like when I was still in my 9 to 5 job, I bought digital courses to learn all the stuff I wanted to do when I had my own business. It's a beautiful time between when you decide to leave and when you do. It's very fun to start learning the things you want to learn. Copywriting, email marketing, it's at the top of the list.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many courses I've been through, partly because that was a main component of Sparkle, Hustle, Grow, but partly because I wore a lot of hats. I had to
Yeah.
get scrappy. I had to do a lot myself at the beginning of my business. And even now, I enjoy doing that stuff. But starting a business is a leap of faith. And it's less scary, in my opinion, when you have a mentor or a coach to help you. And that's why I'm recommending this book to all my friends. If you're on the fence about leaving your career, starting a side hustle and turning it into something that really, really lights you up. So let's wrap this up. You are going to be available on Amazon, right? And it comes out February 21st.
Yep.
Okay. Where else can people follow you? What else do they need to know?
So I always love to put together amazing bonuses for anybody who pre-orders my book or orders it when it's out. So if you go to 2weeksnoticebook.com, all the details there. So 2weeksnoticebook.com. And then I have a podcast called Online Marketing Made Easy. That's a great place when you're reading the book and listening to my podcast. You got all the things you need to find the courage to quit your job, go make some more money, start a business you love, and change the world.
Amen to that, sister. Thank you so much for joining me on Subscription Box Basics. This has been so fun. I'm cheering you on. And if you're listening, you grab those bonuses. I'm sure that they're gold. I can't wait to get my hands on them.
Thank you so very much. I'm so glad to be here.
All right. Thanks, Amy.